Well, thank you so much. President Gertler, Chancellor Wilson, Professor Lowen. It's a deep honor to be here in front of all of you. But I want to particularly say at the beginning, congratulations to the people who are really important here, which are the graduates. It's a tremendous achievement, what you have done. I can't think of a better group to be affiliated with than those in public policy and education. So I'm grateful to be a tiny part of your program, but congratulations on your graduation. Now, my friend David Naylor likes to also, give me a boost of confidence by telling me that, we've had many interesting convocation speakers. Some people, and Chancellor Wilson said, played the piano, some did backflips. And I'm sorry to say you're getting the mozzarella cheese version. And I would say at the outset, from my graduation, I remember at UBC, I don't even remember who the convocation speaker is. So I come into this with a bit of humility on it. But I did want to take the chance to say a few things. First, again, congratulations to you, and to just acknowledge the tremendous institution that you are from, that you're graduating from. It is our leading university in Canada. It is world-class. The track record speaks for itself. I'm jealous of you. I frankly don't think I'd be able to get in to this university at this point, so I'm particularly excited to be up here. But it's also personal because my father graduated from university here as well, so it means a great deal to me. And also have a couple of my colleagues from Canada and actually in Korea who actually cleaned up a lot of the messes that I've left in the system, so it's wonderful to have them here. What I wanted to talk about over the next few minutes was a couple of things. One is that, in the world that we're living in, the context of the world we're living in, I think it's going to be literally some of the most exciting times in human history, given all the changes that are going on. And it's going to be a time for, I think, extraordinary leadership, a leadership that you will show us in terms of how we move things forward. But just to recap kind of where we are and thinking about this world that we're in, we've got the single biggest economic power shift in, I would argue, in our global history happening right now. This economic power shift from the West to the East, to Asia, and eventually Africa. And it's happening a lot faster than we think, including in McKinsey. When we advise people, we don't often take our own medicine, but it's happening very, very quickly. We're in the beginnings of I think, one of the most significant technology revolutions ever. Again, this university is front and center in the thinking of that, not only in terms of the technology, but how to deal with that technology. Some people call it Industry 4.0. Some people call it the last technological revolution when we get to AI, what possibly could be next. A time, I think, of incredible opportunity, but also challenge. We're entering a world that's going to be the most aged in our history. We're going to have, wonderful hearing that little baby cry. Hopefully he can scream to speed me up at times. I appreciate that. But we're going to have a population where there'll be more people over the age of 65 than under the age of 14 in about 25 years. We've never dealt with a world that way. And that has, tremendous opportunity. We'll hopefully have more wise people, older people in the system, but older people also cost a lot of money. And they're not as productive in our typical way of thinking about as younger people. And we're going to have to think about what that means for our economy. And perhaps what's even a more profound change is the desire of people around the world who are entering this new middle class, the 2.5 billion new middle class. They're looking for a new societal deal. We see the rise of populism. We see a lot of concerns with how the political systems work, how democracy works, how democratic capitalism works. A lot of the fundamental beliefs we have, people are worried about it, and they're looking for a new deal on that front. And so you have all those changes happening, which you are going to deal with and hopefully help guide us through as we move through it. But those four things are, in themselves, I think, have a big call out for leadership. And that's where the last thing I wanted to talk about is on leadership. Because one of the things I've enjoyed the most in my job is, ever since I took this role on in 2009, I'm not reliable to do client work anymore. I'm not allowed to. So the way I get energy, is because I love client work, is I had a rule of meeting 2 CEOs or government leaders or social sector leaders a day. That was a rule. I had to do it, and I've done it for 9 years. And I've met, therefore, about 2,700 leaders around the world. And I'm a student of leadership. And I always ask the question, 1, what are the 3 things that excite you or worry you the most? And then 2nd, what could you teach your younger self if you could do it over again? And what I found interesting in that, in those 2,700 discussions that I've had, is there is a very, very common answer to the 2nd question. And that is, I would have spent more time on people. I would have pulled people up faster, I would have taken people out faster, and I would have spent more time on people. And when you dig deeper into that, because you're all leaders, so I'm just, again, sharing this with you for what it's worth as a student of leadership, what those 2,700 leaders talk about is, it's actually not so much what you know, that's obviously important, and what you've been doing over the last number of years is critically important. You can't be effective if you don't know something about something. But what's even more critical is one's character. And that's where I thought I would just end with a few comments on that. Because when you delve into what does character mean, again, I heard some consistent messages. When you unpack it, 1, I would say people would say resilience is absolutely critical. Those leaders that are most effective over time can take the knowledge that they've learned and make things happen, are resilient leaders, which means if you're resilient, you failed. It means you've tried something, but you get back up and you try it again. And being resilient, I would argue, in today's world, which is much more volatile, turbulent, fast-moving, being resilient will be critical. But you can't study resilience. You have to try things, take risk, push the envelope, swing for the fences, write about topics that may be controversial, delve into areas where there may be no clear-cut answer in what you're doing. And for me, actually, one of the most impressive people in the 2,700 people that I met with was actually a miner. His name was Luis Urzura, who was the Chilean miner who basically led those 33 Chilean miners that were underground for 69 days. And what that so he is not of higher education, but he was literally one of the most resilient leaders, because you imagine you find yourself underground, 700 meters underground, no one knows where you are, you've got 4 days supply of food for 33 people, and there's no game plan, right? And that's when you see leaders emerge. And what that miner talked about was actually a high school teacher that he had when he was 15 years old, who he relied on to help him think through what he was going to do and where he was going to move it. But resilience, I think, is a critical factor. The 2nd is judgment. And one of the things I learned on this, I spent time with the people that decide who the 5-star general will be in the United States military. That means the top general. There's only one 5-star general. So how do you pick a 5-star general from the 4-star generals? And I went with, actually, there was the CEO of Clorox, which is a detergent company. It's not the most exciting company in the world, but we went to sort of understand this. And I thought we'd spend half a day learning it. It was a 10-minute meeting. And what the head of HR said, who'd ran the process, and then the president of the United States makes the final decision, he said, "What's so complicated? Why do you have your book? We simply look for 2 things, and actually 1 thing in particular, and that's judgment. We can see the track record of where people are, but it's the judgment of being able to make decisions when they're right versus right decisions. The hardest decisions are when both decisions are right, but they actually conflict. And those are difficult to make. And what we found is the people that make the best right versus right decisions are the most selfless people. They're people that say we, not I. And they don't fake it's we, not I. You can feel it in everything they're doing. Their organization, their people is in front of what they do. So this judgment being a core element. So resilience, judgment. Inspiration. I think as a leader, your role is going to be to inspire people, particularly when there are difficult times. And I found the most inspiring leaders are the ones who actually can give you negative feedback and you somehow feel inspired. The previous managing partner of McKinsey, a guy named Ian Davis, was one of those in particular. And I remember whenever I got feedback from him, and it was typically negative, for some reason I felt good. And at one point I came back and I said, I'm feeling quite good, but I probably shouldn't be, right? And he said, yeah, you shouldn't be. I'm giving you feedback. But there are people that are able to either tell you the truth, pick out what it is that you need to do because of where you're moving, but can somehow inspire you. And people are very different in how they inspire. Some do it in large crowds, some do it one-on-one, some do it, again, by a negative or a positive side. But knowing how to unlock people is critical to being an effective leader. And the final comment I would say on the character which I found in these leaders, and as leaders talked about their younger selves and what they would have done, is ambition. And it's not personal ambition, it's ambition for their organization, for their country, for whatever entity it is that they're focused on, but having high ambition. And with the permission of President Gertler, I want to refer to Cambridge University. There's a speech that was given by the Vice Chancellor, Alison Richard, which I find one of the most inspiring speeches. I didn't hear her say it, but I read it. And the title of the speech is called High Ambition. That's it. And in it she said, "Who will be ambitious on our behalf if we are not ambitious for ourselves? We cannot take this university's greatness for granted even after 800 years. I mean, we must tend it with care and energy, and ambition must translate into tasks." So just thinking about the ambition. And that's something I think in our country, as we look at what we do, we have the endowment, we have all of the skills, we have the social infrastructure, we have the political system that we are blessed with. And who, if not us, are going to be ambitious for what we do in a world in what we're leading? And so I hope that we all are ambitious, and I hope you are ambitious as you think ahead in the next decades as you lead. So that's just a bit of a learning on leadership, the character side of things, which I hope that you will drive and will unlock in what you're doing. And my closing comments, just as some parting thoughts. One is be ambitious, raise the bar, push the envelope on where we can be, because if you don't, I don't know who will. But secondly, please work not just for yourselves, but for others, thinking about the selflessness in what you do. And there's a Buddhist saying, I'm not a Buddhist, but I love the saying, and it's basically that the more you do for others without expecting to get anything back, and it's very important that you don't expect to get anything back, the more you will personally gain. But it's important that you're doing this for another reason, and then happenstance will work for the whole system to be better. And I think in this world, we need more of that. Anyhow, thank you very much for listening to me for so long.